Okay, so we're gonna do a men's haircut on Paul. I already showed some examples of how to edge out the neckline in my other video, but for this one, I just want you to pretend that you haven't cut anything, and we're gonna start from the beginning. So essentially, a men's haircut is split into generally 4 different areas of the hair. So the first one being where the occipital bone is, that bone in the back of the head. From there down to the hairline is zone 1. And the second zone is the round of the head just above that, zone 2. Zone 3 is this upper round of the head where you get to the crown. And this is really where you want to be careful with your clippers. So I'll show you how to cut this so it looks a little bit more professional and less like home done. And then the fourth zone is the top of the head. So to start, I usually work from the bottom nape of the hair all the way to about the round of the head. And what I'm gonna do is take my clipper with a number 3 guard. Put that on. So with guards, the bigger the number that's on your guard, the longer the hair is going to be. So you can always start with a bigger guard, say number 4 or 5, and then go smaller if you decide you want more length off. But if you start with a small one, you can't put the hair back on. I've cut Paul's hair many times before, so I know that a number 3 is a good length for him because he likes it quite short. And then also if I'm doing like a regular men's haircut, I wouldn't use a guard, but for this purpose, we will. So just tuck your chin down. So when you're starting with your guard, I usually get my client to tuck the chin down just because it smooths out the back of the neck and you can see what's happening a little bit more. I'm gonna put my clipper in right up against the skin and move the clipper up until I start to feel where that round, that occipital bone is, and then just continue in the straight line so that I'm going up against the scalp and then keep going. So rather than taking the clipper all the way up, we're just hitting about there, okay? So turning it on. So I feel the skin. And then now that the clipper's against the head, I just keep going up until you don't have any more hair. Starting at the hairline, keep the clipper against the head until you hit occipital. You could take your guard all over the head and, that's perfect. If you're looking for a little bit more of a tailored look, that's what this will do. And I like to do the back of the head completely up until I get to the ear. I'm not taking the clipper any higher than this round. If you do, it's no big deal. Start on this side at the hairline. Keep the clipper against the head. If you have really, really thick hair, I have a few men's clients who have very thick hair. The clipper tends to not want to move through that hair very well. So you have to just move a little bit slower because it also gives a smoother cut when you give the clipper time to do its work. If you're trying to go too fast, you end up catching the hair in your tool and then it ends up pulling, and especially for, say, like little kids, they really, they don't like that. I mean, guys don't like that either, but so just keep working around. You can see there's still some length here, and that's okay. That's what we want for right now. So just keeping the clipper against the head. Over here, I'm gonna work all the way to the front. It's a little harder to tell where the round of the head is on this side because the head's a bit flatter here. So once this part of your clipper is against the head, you're just gonna keep going straight up rather than following around. Move this here. And sometimes you get growth patterns that encourage the hair to grow straight back, and so when you're moving your clipper, that hair doesn't get caught. So behind the ear is a good example of this. So you just have to change the direction of your clipper. You might have to go forward towards the face a few times. You might have to go back just to make sure that you pick up all those little hairs. And if you get something like this patch where it's not really being picked up, I'll show you how to grab that. Okay, so we've done the back, and I usually leave all the neck tailoring and all that until I'm done everything else, just in case, you know, maybe I need to take something shorter, whatever. So I'm gonna show you, first option would be just to take a bigger number of clippers, say a 5 or a 6, even a 4 would be good, and to finish off the rest of the head, go through there. But I'm gonna show you how you can do scissor and comb haircut on the top, just in case for some of my clients who have kids with longer haircuts on the top and maybe they want to keep it longer, or say men with longer hair. It's not super hard, you just have to remember, almost like physics. Okay, so I have a spray bottle. You could just do this out of the shower. I find that clippering wet hair is a little bit more difficult. So I usually in the salon will do the clipper work and then give my client a shampoo and then do this, just because this stuff is easier when the hair is wet. But we're gonna work with what we have. Does that feel okay, Paul? Okay, so first, kind of comb. Usually the crown of the head, the top of the head, is where I kind of have my center point, and I just start combing the hair into natural fall from there. There's a few options on how to cut a men's haircut this way. But I'm going to show you first to make a guide and then work the top and then connecting side to top. So to make your guide, if you pull from the crown, usually when you pull that hair out, there's going to be a little bit of hair that starts to stick out. You can see that. So I'm just going to connect point A to point B. Trim those little guys. So now we have a basis for how long we want our hair to be. So picking up that little guide, I'm now going to work in horizontal sections all the way to the front of the head. Usually I take my sections about peace sign distance, so no bigger than that peace sign, because then you can have more control over the hair. You find your guide right there and you start to, he's got little curly hair so I have to pick it up. Start to trim that off the top. You want to avoid really cutting past your second knuckle because that tends to be where finger cuts happen. And so I'm just going to keep working, finding that guide, that short piece, and trimming. Every once in a while you might have a hair that sticks to the finger. All good. But again, you can do this with a clipper, just with a bigger number. So if you've gone through and done your scissor and comb technique all the way to the front of the hair, to connect top to side, I want you to take a vertical section, just like we did to start the guide, pull the hair out. So we have this hang out. Pull the hair out and then take that right down. So then you're connecting that dot all the way around from the back of the head all the way to the front hairline. If you are doing a clipper technique, like I did over here, then I'll show you how to blend. Get a hair in your eyeball.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I did go through and I used a number 4 to cut the top of Paul's hair because he likes it quite short. But again, if you want longer, you can use your scissor and comb technique to do any length that you want. Just make sure that you merge the two sides by pulling out to the side and then connecting your dots. So to finish off and tailor this cut, usually what I'll do is go through the round of the head and look for any hairs that are kind of sticking out, anything that's not where it should be. Say the clipper missed something. And so as you comb through, usually it'll poke up and then you just take it down. If you want to skip this step, that's no biggie. Just looking for, I used a white comb because that way you can see, even when I'm doing hair behind the chair. And then we'll get the little pieces that, okay. So let's do our neckline. Just tuck your chin down, Paul. So usually I'll go through with my scissor and just tailor, clean everything up, and then I go through with the clipper to sharpen the edges. So this is sort of a technique that you can use to sketch out where you want your line to be. It also works well for kids who are ticklish and they don't like having the clipper on their skin. There's a lot of that. From kids, I find they get really nervous around the clipper, but you can also do this with the clipper as well. Kind of patient's choice. So again, just combing the hair into natural fall, putting the blade right on that hairline. This is probably the toughest spot on a lot of people. I usually find no matter who you are, the hair just really wants to grow the opposite direction. So you kind of have to use your tool against the way the hair wants to go. If you cut this way, then you're going to be encouraging the hair to go back. But if you take your tool and cut it forward, you tend to pick up slightly more hair that way. And you might have to go in a few times. Usually in this spot is where I'll take a clipper because it does tend to catch everything. It can be kind of tricky. Okay. So just combing the hairline back to see. Try not to get my head in the way. So again, just putting the blade on the skin. You can take it slow. Now I usually find that these hairs don't like to be caught in the clipper, so I pull them forward and I still will trim that sideburn a little bit. And sometimes it helps too to comb forward and then put the comb right there and not even take it away. So you're over directing the hair out of the hairline so you can pick up and edge what you want. Okay, so before I go in and do the neckline, one last finishing touch. Usually with hair that's been done with a clipper, just get that little spot. That's been done with a clipper, you get sort of this unfinished edge. So I'm gonna go and just detail the front hairline a little to make it look more professional. So sometimes you get those weird random long hairs. It's okay, you just go in and take them down with the scissor. Like you can see in here, I have this crazy long hair. So I'll just take that down. And this is just a point cut. It's not a blunt cut. It's like drawing. Beautiful. Okay. Last step is the clipper, and then Paul will be free. Such a trooper. So first off, for your sideburn, I usually, without a guard, I don't have a guard on my clipper right now, I usually find this part of the ear, which is called the tragus, and put the clipper in horizontal to blunt that off. You want to make sure that your client's chin is level, parallel with the floor, because if it's not, you'll end up with a crooked sideburn line. I usually tell men when they're shaving that they should check what their chin is doing, because that's going to be a big indicator of what their sideburn will look like. So you can see I'm just going in and sketching out again. Just tuck your chin down, Paul. But this time picking up all the little leftover hairs. And because I went in there with my scissor, I know how I want that neckline to look. But again, you don't have to. You can just go straight for this part. And voila, done.